I have the best job in the world simply because I'm smarter at the end of every day than I am at the beginning of every day. Why? Because I'm dealing with entrepreneurs who know a lot more about their domain than I ever will. It's our collective responsibility, for example, to leave this place better than we found it.
Mohanjit, you talked about it a little bit at dinner, in terms of why you keep coming back to these gatherings. I just want to ask you really sincerely, because time is your most valuable asset, I would say. Why are you here? You're just about to close the fund. There's a lot going on in life right now, and you're making a huge investment of time to be here, and you've done it time and time again.
I think somebody mentioned earlier, you have to take care of yourself first and foremost, and your family very soon thereafter. I do this for myself, so I am perhaps the most selfish person here. I'm not doing it for you guys. I'm doing it for myself, seriously, because look, I live in part of the world which I call the fifth order bubble. Okay. For most of the world, the U.S. is a bubble. You've got bodies of water on either side. And then you've got California that the other 49 states don't really understand. Yeah. Then you have Northern California, Silicon Valley, and then Sand Hill Road, right? So that's the fifth order bubble. And the reason I brought my kids here, for example, is to take them out of that bubble and say, okay, you know what? Immerse yourselves with people who are actually changing the world for the better. And I honestly feel that way every time I touch anyone or anything having to do with Unreasonable, and especially with the entrepreneurs. I just go back with, energy is too soft a word. I mean, it's a mind-blown kind of experience every time I do it, right? So if you have that kind of experience every time you do it, wouldn't you do it again and again and again? Absolutely, absolutely, right? And so that's the reason I do it. I do it for myself, and hopefully along the way, if I can contribute in a positive manner to one or n number of entrepreneurs, that's just phenomenal. But this is something that is precious to me, and even if you tell me, Mohanjit, don't come, I'll figure out where you are and I'll show up. So.
Good.
Absolutely.
Well, how many kids do you have?
3.5. So I have 3 kids and a dog. So by the way, if you don't have a pet, and if you don't have a 80-pound golden doodle like we do, that is like having another child. And I was on the phone with my wife, and she said the dog is sick, so she had to take him to pet ER at 2 in the morning. I have 2 girls, a boy, and Bentley the golden doodle. Yeah, but 3 beautiful kids.
So having 3 beautiful kids in Bentley.
Yes.
How has fatherhood changed how you show up in the world?
I mean, it's an understatement to say, then when you have your first child, it is a life-changing moment, no doubt about it. But the way I try to live, because I know that the kids are looking up to me, and I want them to understand that, it's our collective responsibility, for example, to leave this place better than we found it. And that's why we make it a point, for example, almost going back many years, that every weekend we have a charity of our choice where we basically cook and we feed the homeless. So that is something that we have adopted as family. And I think it was when fatherhood sort of dawned on me, I said, you know what, I have to pass this on. If I don't do it, and if they don't see me doing it, then it's impossible for me to expect them to live their life a certain way. I'll give you another example. And this was one of my proudest moments, is we lived in India for 5 years, between 2007 and 2012. We moved there when the kids were 6, 4, and 2. And so formative years, no doubt. And one thing that India is I call it the in-your-face country. There's no disguising it, right? It is what it is. And you've got to have the wherewithal to sort of go with it. I've known several friends and acquaintances who couldn't handle it, and they moved back to the States. But my middle one realized, he said, you know what? There's so many people who don't have anything, right? They sleep on the roads. They're poor. When it rains, they don't have any shelter. What can we do? So I turned it around on her, and she was, I guess at that time, about 7 years old. And I said, Mama, what would you do? And she said, you know what? We have so much fruit that's in our garden. Why don't we just take that fruit and we hand it out? So again, every time we'd get in the car, they would get in the car with us. We would have actually a bag of fruit. And so when we'd see somebody, whether it was on the side of the street or somebody begging, we almost never gave money. We always gave food, and healthy, nutritious sort of fruit. And when I saw that coming from them, that was, again, a really proud moment, saying, you know what, they're hopefully well grounded, and they'll grow up to be decent citizens and human beings, first and foremost. And so that's when I show up sort of all in. I'm present for them, I'm there for them, but I want them to sort of learn by observing. My philosophy, my MO in life is I don't instruct. Right? And that's, I just tell even my wife, I said, I don't want us to tell the kids, do this, do this, do this. Hopefully they have the wherewithal where we can go ahead and do what we think we should be doing, whether it's chores in the house or helping in any way we can. By observation, they will learn. Hopefully they will emulate, and not only just emulate, but actually do it better themselves.
So you've been an investor for 25 years now?
Almost
right?
20 years.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
It was Garage, right?
Yeah.
Garage Ventures with Guy Kawasaki, and then DFJ,
Yeah.
and now with your own fund.
Yeah.
Somebody who has so much kind of passion and humility and this kind of bent towards almost like a charitable posture to the world. Why an investor? Why is this your profession?
Well, if you think about it, I mean, if you can do well while you're doing good, why not, right? And I mean, Jeff is an expert in scaling, and so if we think about having an impact, I've had the pleasure, and I'm sort of looking at Sam here from d.light, companies that have impacted tens of millions of people, going to hundreds of millions of people. And as an investor, what I can bring to them, which I hope to bring to all of you, are, again, best practices to the extent I can, connections to the extent I can. Again, mistakes that I've made and I've seen companies make that I hope you guys avoid. So there is no better mechanism to bring all that sort of, I don't want to call it intellectual, but just that harnessing of knowledge that hopefully I've accumulated over the years. And if I can bring that to somebody who is really changing the world, again, why not?
Yeah.
And so I've just been blessed, and I was actually saying it at the dinner table, that I have the best job in the world simply because I'm smarter at the end of every day than I am at the beginning of every day. Why? Because I'm dealing with entrepreneurs who know a lot more about their domain than I ever will. And so if I can just grab a little bit of what what they shell out, I'm a better person. And so I think having that sort of bird's eye view, having a global perspective, having seen companies move around the world, start in one place and impact another, I think as an investor I can bring a lot of that to the table that in another profession perhaps I would not be able to.
Yeah. So not to pick on Sam too much. Sorry, Sam. We were just looking at d.light, which is Sam had co-founded the company, and I thought the statistic was you'd sold to about 75 million people or so, and I looked at it, and it's 83 million people now in a very short period of time. I'm curious from your perspective as an investor and board member in d.light, what worked, so well? What are they doing to be able to hit that level of scale?
Look, I think, I often say the best of times and the worst of times I've had in my career because of people.
Yeah.
Right. So
the worst because of Sam.
So
Best because of Ned.
no. So I think not that it's been without its ups and downs.
Of course.
Right. So we have collectively made some mistakes along the way, but I think recognizing when those people-centric, perhaps mistakes have been made, and rectifying them with absolutely the right people, the right culture, the right incentives, being able to experiment. And experiment, fail, but fail fast, right? Don't go into it for 6, 9, 12 months and then say, oh my God. Figure out how you can do it so that you can refine and optimize fairly quickly. And I think I give the team incredible kudos for having done that. Going from selling, in their case, specifically, portable solar lanterns to solar home systems for people who are off-grid or off-reliable grid was a major move, major extension. And again, we had some hiccups along the way, but they figured out what they needed to do, the people that they needed to hire, relationships they needed to build, both with other investors as well as folks like Shell Foundation and others who've been along d.light's journey for a long time. I think that has really helped. But it fundamentally comes down to, I call it's about the people, right? So build that culture. It's often softer issue that most people don't think about, but that can change the trajectory completely. And for entrepreneurs and founders especially, one of the mistakes I think I've seen folks make is somehow have this, I don't want to call it ego necessarily, but this lack of either awareness or own strength to say, you know what, let me hire people who are smarter than I am. It's very, very difficult to do for most people, but I think that's what you have to do as an entrepreneur, especially as you scale. You have to find people who are specialists. You have to find people who are professional, who've perhaps scaled companies, whether they're full-time advisors, independent board members, etc. But you have to get that extended team built out. And again, I think kudos to d.light for having done that really well.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're out of time, Mohanjit, but I will say that anybody who gets you as an investor or board member or a friend or a father is damned lucky. Thank you so much.
You're too kind.